Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 16th episode of Text Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Glad to have you here once again. In our, this is more of a transition between the 5th and the 6th week. See, what we did is we had a 13th episode, which we haven't yet aired or put online anywhere. So this week, we had a debate with the producers as to whether we should make 3 other shows, the 14th, 15th, and 16th episode to go with this week, and then to just go ahead and do another 3 regularly programmed shows next week too, and then just add in the 13th episode on Friday the 13th. So generally the principles that we follow here are just to go pedal to the metal, balls to the wall, run the top cushion. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and do, just do the 3 days a week regularly programmed show, and then, if we got a special show or something, then we'll just toss it in. And in this particular instance, Friday the 13th at 9 p.m. is probably when the big giveaway is going to be. So make sure to tune in for that, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we definitely have good times, balls deep, coming in the very near future. So we're very, very pumped for that, and very privileged to be able to provide you with that viewing entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. So that being said, this is the 16th episode of Text Messages. It looks like April 8th, 2018. Looks like our high today is only about 30 degrees, so it's very, very peculiar, very odd weather for April, but not completely unexpected either. I mean, for March, this is probably more typical for early March. Usually by April, pretty much most of the snow is gone, but it does occasionally happen where there is snow in April, and you just got to deal with it and take whatever nature gives you and run with it. I mean, ultimately, you can't really allow nature or the weathers to get you down. I mean, yeah, you can move to different climates and all that good fun stuff too, but then you're gonna have to deal with other obstacles and challenges as well. Like, for example, if you move to Texas, then you might have to deal with rattlesnakes crawling into your house, or alligators, attacking you at night, or maybe if you get out of a car, you might have a mountain lion that tries to jump on you. So there are those things to consider when you're moving to different climates as well. Fortunately, humans are, furry animals, they can survive in wintertime. Bears, goats, chickens, bald eagles, cats, raccoons, possums, they can all survive in wintertime, so they're fairly intelligent critters. But the amphibious creatures, the ones that can exist on land and water, they generally, you get frogs and all that, salamanders in up here, but the real big ones that depend a lot on warm weather, alligators, the poisonous snakes and things like that, they're going to typically stay down south, which is preferable. So the very underrated facet of living in this type of climate is that you can pretty much, the only thing you really have to worry about if you're swimming in a river or something are snapping turtles, and they're usually not a big deal. I mean, I think me and one of my friends from elementary school, we hung out by a river for a few summers, and he thought he might have saw a snapping turtle one time, so that spooked him a little bit. But you don't have crocodiles or alligators swimming around you, or anacondas or nothing like that. So I mean, you can pretty much venture anywhere in central Minnesota at any time of the year and feel safe from predators or dangerous creatures. Now, yeah, there might be the occasional mountain lion sighting in Champlin, Minnesota by the river, and yeah, that stuff happens, but it's extremely rare. And yeah, I mean, occasionally too, somebody will have a python on their deck, but it's usually some goofball neighbor that got rid of the creature, so that's why it's outside. I mean, it's definitely not normal, and it's not, when it does happen, people get their cameras out because it's a big deal. And that being said, ladies and gentlemen, so this episode will be normally timed, it'll be the 1 hour long, just like the other the other 12 episodes, because 13 we haven't filmed it, and then the prior 2 where they were cut short due to some SD card, not really difficulties, but just I didn't I recorded a previous show on one of the SD cards, and I want to keep that show on because there's something funny going on with it. So So I could only record about 57 minutes sound. But then I went ahead and I went to Walmart and got a new SD card, and it says it's 100 megabit per second, so maybe the quality will be better. So, I mean, the camera that we use here is insanely expensive, so it's probably a matter of, first of all, knowing how to use the camera, which I absolutely don't use. The only thing I did is I turned it on and I hit a button that said record, and that's pretty much the extent of what I've done as far as technical work with the camera. So the SD card that came with the camera, when I bought it from a gentleman on eBay, he included 32 gigabyte one, 80 megabit per second speed, recording speed. So this one I got now is 100 megabit per second, so it may or may not look different, but hey, you know, if anything we can do to put more quality into the show, I mean, there's a pretty large margin for quality improvement. So I mean, just any bit of minutia we could add to bring the show to a higher level will definitely be a consideration, even if it requires a bit of expenditures, because I mean, it's, you know, someday we'll probably get some decent sponsors and hopefully be able to bring the show to you commercial free, and of course it's always going to be uncut, uncensored, and unedited. You know, it's, you know, I'm too lazy to we don't really have the bandwidth to live stream it, so more or less just filming it with the whole motto of the uncut, uncensored, unedited. It's more the feeling that it's a live broadcast, even though it's technically recorded and uploaded and all that goofy stuff. So, you know, that's sort of what we want to capture. I mean, we're not trying to piece together words and statements to make someone look really smart or make them look like a big goof. It's just going with reality in real time. You know, the space-time continuum. There's no inconsistencies in the space-time continuum when you watch text messages. As far as Good Times, Balls Deep, it'll probably utilize that same principle, but I mean, that show will have different producers, obviously a different host, or just a host in general, not necessarily a parasite. So it's gonna, I mean, quality is gonna be significantly greater, far greater, as you can probably imagine, based on just the amount of time that's going into the prep work so far. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the last episode we talked about buying cars. Initially, I was planning on doing both buying and selling cars in the same episode, but we ran out of time, and it wasn't because the SD card cut out. It was just because there's a lot to cover, and you know, 1 hour is usually a satisfactory time to cover important topics. And then, of course, too, that there's always little bits and news pieces that we try to add into it, and research articles, which I haven't gotten to them in a couple days, so we'll get back to them, ladies and gentlemen, just to make sure that you guys are getting a fair show, and you know, we're trying to smarten up the audience, etc. So for this episode, we want to talk more about selling cars. So if you already own a car with a title to operate it on public roadways and you want to sell it, you know, what options you have and what could happen and all that goofy stuff as well. Now, if you have a car and it's got a loan on it or something, and you want to sell it, usually, if you can pay the loan off, I mean, yeah, it's easy just to put that into words. I mean, a lot of people just don't have money to pay off a loan on a car. So if you can pay the loan off, you're probably going to get more money for the car, because as a buyer, people aren't going to want to see, oh, you know, the car has a loan or a lien on it, and then we're going to have to dick around with that whole process. So automatically, by paying off the loan and getting the title, a clean title in your hand, you give yourself a better opportunity to get more money out of the deal. And plus, the buyer's going to be more happy too, because they're going to get a car that they don't want to dick around with a title. They're going to get the car right away. They're going to get it in their driveway now, because they need their money and they need it now. So that's the important thing too. You know, last episode we talked about being a buyer and looking for clean titles and all that goofy stuff. So as a seller, it's important to get a clean title. If you're going to try to sell a car without a title, you can basically expect to get pretty much junkyard price for it. I mean, if you had a car that's normally $3,000 and you don't have a title for it, even if if you had the title and you lost it, do everything in your power to find it. I mean, if you moved out of apartments, maybe call the people that moved into the apartments and say, hey, you know, did you see a car title? Or Or, call your parents. Maybe you left it at their house, or they're leaving it in one of those fireproof containers. So it is vitally important to get the title for a car, because like I said, if you got a $3,000 car and you're trying to sell that car, you don't have a title for it, it's probably going to be worth about the price of $200, $300, and that's just based on scrap metal prices, what people can part it out for. A junkyard probably isn't even going to pay that much for it. And the thing with that is too, people can't legally drive. If you sell a car without a title, it's non-insurable, so people aren't able to drive it legally. So they literally have to get it towed home, which is going to cost a few hundred bucks, unless they got the tow truck themselves. Then they can just do it themselves and save the hassle there. So now you can sell it with a bill of sale, but most people aren't going to know or care to deal with that. They'd have to get maybe a judge involved or legal people involved, and it just becomes a big hassle. It depends on the state too. Older cars, it's not really a big deal. You just get a bill of sale, go through some little process here and there, and then you're good to go. But with a newer car, you might have to contact past owners or contact past lenders, and it's a big hassle. If you're an expert in bills of sales, then yeah, by all means. But if you're buying a car from a seller that's trying to tell you that, for a bill of sale, all you got to do is this, that, and the other thing, you can't really believe them. You have to. The best theory as far as buying and selling cars is trust but verify. It's an excellent quote. Yeah, just a lot of things in general. Trust but verify. Because you don't want to just go around distrusting everybody. Then you're going to feel miserable all the time because you just feel like you're all alone in the world you must despise. Then, yeah, when you're dealing with people in the public, you want to make sure you can have a nice working relationship. And as a car seller, you don't really know what the reputation is of any of these people buying it. So it is a good idea to just exchange maybe a couple emails back and forth so that you got a good idea if the people are serious or not. If somebody just emails you and they say, "Oh, hey, so that looks like a pretty nice car, can I come test drive it?" It's just, yeah, I suppose you can, but it is a bit of a hassle. Number one, buyers don't always show up when they promise to show up. As a regular Craigslist user, it's probably greater than 50% of the time when people say they're going to show up, they don't. Which is unfortunate and sad and all that stuff too, but that's kind of the world we live in some environments. So when you're selling a car, try to gauge the interest of the buyer too. If they're just looking to lollygag and joyride random cars around just so they can say, "Oh yeah, I drove this car and that car and the other car, and I think I'm going to get this car." Yeah, you try to avoid them if you can. Just do some vetting. Now I realize when it comes to, not everybody likes vetting. They just let everybody come in and not care about it. But the fact is, as a car seller, you need to know that the buyer is on the up and up, because there's no feedbacks. You can't. Yeah, maybe if they got a name or something, you can look them up on Google or whatever and see if they got any arrest records. But you can't really. Like eBay, when you're buying something for somebody, or even when somebody's buying something from you can see that they have a feedback. Probably the worst thing to happen on eBay is if you're selling something and then somebody bids on it with zero feedback. Then you know that there's a good chance you're going to have to grab your ankles. So when you're selling a car, the onus is completely on you to vet this particular buyer and to see if they're serious about it, or if they're just pulling your chain, or if they just want to waste your time. So, yeah, I usually probably try to exchange 2, 3, 4 emails. Just ask simple questions. What do you plan to use it for? Approximately, where do you live? Going to college, or you going to buy it for your kid or your wife or your daughter, or what the deal is. Just try to establish some background. If they say they're going to use the car for shipping up drugs from Colombia or something, then you know that it's probably not somebody that would be a dependable buyer. Yeah, they might have a lot of money, but they might not be a good person to work with. So there are those pitfalls to look for too. And then the other thing too, just if it's somebody that lives close by, that helps a lot. Because say for example you live in Wilmer, Minnesota, and somebody emails you from Bemidji, and they're like, yeah, looks like a pretty cool car. You know, I live 3 hours away. Can I come check it out? It's the probability that they're going to come check it out if they live in Bemidji is a lot more slim than if they lived in Atwater or Painesville or Cold Spring. You know, all towns less than an hour away. So, I mean, geographic location is definitely one factor to consider. You know, people can easily lie about it too, but it's one of the things where people won't really think to lie about, even if they are a scammer, because they're just, it's just, you kind of have to be a little bit smart and know a bit of psychology about things. I mean, you don't need a psychology degree from Madison University to know just basic human behaviors. You know, just send a few emails back and forth, get a good idea of what the people are up to, and yeah, they sound interested, they sound like some cool, rad people, then yeah, definitely drop the green flag, you know, agree to meet up with them at a reasonable time, preferably during the day. One of the reasons why that is because it gives them a better opportunity to see the car and look the car up and down and see if it's something that they're sure of, that they enjoy. Because if people come to look at a car at night, they may be a little, if the car's got a few problems, they're a little less secure driving it home, and the light of the sun always helps bring spirits higher inside people. So if they come to look at the car during the day and see it in all of its glory, they're going to feel more inclined, or more proclivity to obtain the car. You know, yeah, obviously people are going to see more fallacies with the car too, and they may talk the price down, but I mean, that's just the nature of selling cars, ladies and gentlemen. So that being said, we're coming up to a break here. We're going to have a show in the near future called Good Times, Balls Deep. The host of the show is working with a gentleman at an Institute of Higher Learning. He's an audio-video equipment expert, so he'll be able to bring the show to you at a high level with all the equipment to match the quality of the content of the show. And then, of course, the host of Good Times, Balls Deep has also procured many, maybe not a lot, but he has co-hosts and guests of the show that he'll have on regularly as well. And he's also looking for a studio to meet his stringent requirements too. So that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, obviously the studio would need to be of higher quality than the text messages studio here. Plus the text messages studio, you know, it's located in Elk River, and Good Times Balls Deep will be based out of St. Cloud, Minnesota. You know, the central Minnesota, St. Cloud. So he's trying to locate a studio there to match the quality of the content, and then of course the audio video stuff too. And now you ladies and gentlemen at home might think like, well, can't he just sit in a parking lot and just talk into a camera? And for some shows, yeah, that works. You know, like for text messages, the quality and refinement are basically on the very low end of the spectrum. So yeah, it works for those types of shows. But Good Times, Balls Deep will be, you know, it won't be a full-on, all-out Hollywood production, but it's gonna just be a show that's obviously running on 8 cylinders, both in front of the scenes and behind the camera. And the host of Good Times, he doesn't want to just throw out some junk right away and then turn off a lot of the viewers. I mean, that's absolutely not the premise of the show. I mean, as soon as we hit the ground with that show, we want to make sure it's running on 8, 12 cylinders, and none of them are misfiring, and just moving forward, you know, full flanking ahead. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I got a lot of ebullience as far as the prospect of Good Times, Balls Deep, and I think once they get everything put together, you know, the guy at the Institute of Higher Learning and the host of Good Times, Balls Deep, and then the guest and the co-host, once they all get together and everything just starts gelling and meshing and moving forward, then it's you, ladies and gentlemen, at home are going to be the true beneficiaries of the amalgamation of everything that goes into that show. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the parasite of the show. You're watching text messages. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Text Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Glad to have you here on April 8th, 2018. Reason why I'm saying good afternoon is because our schedule was a little, not really out of balance, but we shifted things up a little bit this week because we had the 13th episode, which is going to air next Friday. Basically, the 13th episode will consist of, it'll be a few, obviously it'll be the number 13, the theme number 13. It'll consist of a few stories from past, purgatory, and present existences that I experienced firsthand. So yeah, it'll be a unique show. I mean, I don't know if it'll be good or not, because basically for all these shows, the producers and I'll get a vision for what the show will be. Then we'll film it. I'll watch for about 5 seconds. As soon as you hear your own voice, it just becomes an instant cringe fest, and then everything just completely falls apart. So. As far as time spent editing these shows, there's none. And the show is only good if you, the ladies and gentlemen at home, think it's good, if you're entertained by it. And that could change from person to person. So, I mean, nothing. I mean, the background, the hair, the suit, the face, the content. I mean, there's no basis of judging quality. I can't say, well, if we do this, it'll be better. Or if I do that, it'll be better. It's just a matter of, if you like it, it's good. That's really all there is to it. So that's why I don't waste time with doing prep work, because I'm completely clueless when it comes to how humans think and what people think is good or what people think is bad. And we're not trying to appeal to a wide audience. It's mostly esoteric people that are entertained by whatever the text messages show has to offer, more or less, which the couple ladies and gentlemen home watching, as long as you're entertained, that's really all that matters. If I have to stand up here for 1 hour and 2 or more people are entertained, that's double the output. So it's above unity. It's like a perpetual motion machine. I'm putting in 5 kilowatts of energy, and you're getting 10 plus kilowatts of energy out of it. So it's already worth it. I mean, even if one person likes the show, then it's, then it is unity, so it's still worth it. But if literally nobody likes the show, then then I realize there's a problem. So as long as we can avoid that, and I think we're in good shape, and we're going to keep moving forward on 8 cylinders, balls to the wall, and just trying to make America great, make St. Cloud great again, and make Elk River great again, and just everything great again, hopefully. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the 13th episode will be this Friday, April 13th, 9 p.m. See, what we do is, when you upload to YouTube, you can set a certain time to publish it. So I'll set a time for 9 o'clock Central Time. Then it'll be dark out and all that good fun stuff. So then, most people will probably be out partying or doing something productive and not sitting inside their house, which is completely understandable. So, if for example on Friday the 13th you're just completely bored out of your mind, then yeah, anticipate the 13th episode to air at 9 p.m. And most likely I'll probably be sitting at home too, so if it doesn't air, I'll be able to go on and see what's going on or why it's not airing, etc. Actually, Saturday there might be a prior obligation, so maybe I won't be around Friday night to see if there's anything bad. But more than likely, yeah, I'm sure the show will probably air on Friday at 9 p.m. as initially planned, or as we're planning it right now. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about selling cars. As last episode we talked about buying cars, so we're going to talk about selling cars this time, or trucks, vans, SUVs, all that good fun stuff. Basically anything that has a title that's used on public roadways. So, the last segment we just talked about, if you're selling cars, try to communicate with the potential buyer, make sure they're on the up and up, that they're good, upstanding, morally sound people, and that they're actually interested in the car too. And language barriers aren't really a defeating factor. I mean, if you're talking to someone and they don't really get into a lot of detail, but it sounds like there might be some language issues there, then it's not really a huge deal. You don't need to know everything about them if they came from Cambodia or Laos or Jamaica or French, Canada, and they don't really like to talk a lot of English words. They just want a damn car. So I mean that's not, it's not anything to get up in arms about. So I mean, yeah, if they sound like they're interested in it and they're not good English speakers, it's still, yeah, I mean I wouldn't, I wouldn't drop the black flag on that deal there. But it is a good idea to know that the potential buyer is a serious person. And as an example, the most recent car I sold, it was a black Oldsmobile, and I had it on Craigslist. And what would happen, it was when people would message me, all the messages would go to the junk or the spam folder. So I had the car on for about a month, and it appeared that there was no interest in the car. So I was thinking, well, this kind of sucks. I got to keep dropping the price. I started at, it was like $2,200, and I was down to about $1,800. And some happenstance way, I checked the spam folder one day, and I saw an email that said, black Oldsmobile. So I was thinking, well, this is kind of interesting. So I checked the history of the email folders, and there's probably about a dozen emails for that car. And about 3 or 4 of them were from the same gentleman. So right off, I mean, he wasn't necessarily the first one to email me, but he was the one that emailed me the most frequently. So right out the bat, I was kind of thinking like, well, this guy's probably pretty serious. I'll just reply to him. So I went ahead and replied to him, talked to him a little bit. He's saying, yeah, I work here. I'm going to buy this car for my daughter, etc., etc. So he sounded pretty serious about it. So then so he actually offered to drive all the way to my house. But I was thinking, you know what? I can just meet him about halfway and then just get a ride home. So it'll be a higher probability that he won't back out of the deal or that he'll show up and everything too. Because when you agree to meet people at a location, it creates a far greater responsibility on them to be there and to show up. Now, yeah, it does happen where if you agree to meet people somewhere, they may get cold feet. But if they agree to meet you at your house, there's a lot higher chance they'll get cold feet. Just because, people are a lot more apt to back out of, because they don't think it's inconveniencing you in any way if they just get cold feet and don't show up at your house. But if you agree to go out of your way and meet somebody somewhere, then they feel that there's an onus on them to meet you there. So they're more inclined to do that. They have a predilection to maybe get somebody else involved or to make sure that they don't back out and make you mad or anything like that too. So yeah, I went ahead and I agreed to meet him in Monticello. So he showed up there, he drove the car on, the air conditioner worked, the car seemed to run okay. Yeah, he seemed pretty happy with it, so he just gave me the asking price, and then I called somebody and they picked me up and I went home. And it was pretty simple. Yeah, it was just nice too because there wasn't any dicking around. Some cars I've sold in the past, like I sold it's this late 80s Civic. And the first people, so what I did first is I parked the car out front. I mean, it seemed like a pretty cheap rundown. And this was pre-Craigslist days. So I just went ahead and I parked it out front. I put $1,200 on it or whatever. It was a busier road. So, I mean, you'd always have people that would stop and look at it and knock on your door and ask for a test drive. So, I mean, it was a big hassle because it always felt, it wasn't so much you felt nervous, but it always seemed like somebody was there or somebody was watching or somebody could knock on the door at any minute. So, you didn't want to be walking around with your bathrobe on or with a towel on. So it felt like you literally were running a business from your house, and something I probably recommend against. But so some people would, knock on the door, want to test drive it, and waste all your time and everything too. And nobody was really that interested. And then occasionally you'd have, like, there's this one guy that showed up, and so I had the price of $1,200 on the car, and then literally I took the sticker off, and I was gonna put the car online and then just pull it into the backyard because I was getting sick of all the people that were stopping by and acting silly and whatnot. So I pull the sticker off and I go inside, and I don't know what happened, but I got occupied with something else for a few hours, and during that time span there was probably about a dozen calls, people that somehow already knew what the number was, so they were calling me and thinking that the car was $500 or $700 or whatever, just these lowball insane prices. And unfortunately, no, the car wasn't quite that affordable. I mean, it was a Honda, so it, obviously pretty much any Honda's going to be worth. Welcome back to Text Messages, ladies and gentlemen. We had a little bit of a technical issue with our SD card. As if you were watching the introduction of the show, I had to experiment with some different SD cards. You know, first I bought one from Menards that apparently they have these speed ratings on them, and the one from Menards was just some cheap generic one, so it doesn't actually work at all in the video camera. And then they got the other kind of SD cards. This one I got from Walmart that had 100 megabit per second. You know, it sounded like a pretty fancy one, 32 gigabytes, all that good fun stuff. But so what happened, ladies and gentlemen, is what the SD card does is when it records in about 3.9 gigabyte segments. So that equates to 60 minutes of footage roughly. So it recorded the first 3.95 gigabyte, then recorded another 3.95 gigabyte, and then when it went to the third one, it just stopped recording. So we got 32 minutes of footage, and you know, after 40 minutes or so, every 20 minutes generally at Text Messages here, then we take a small short intermission break. So during that intermission, I check the camera, make sure it's still recording. You know, not much technical acuity there, and it looked like it stopped recording. So when I tried to convert the video from the camera to the computer, it was just aired out. So, you know, you just do the most technically advanced thing you can do, push out the memory card and push it back in, and then I got the first 32 minutes of the show. So, but then when it transitioned from the second block to the third block of the 4 gigabyte recording, it aired out. So, initially, I was very concerned, ladies and gentlemen, because I thought that maybe if there's something wrong with the insanely expensive camera, then we would have some pretty significant problems, which could potentially derail the show for up to 2 weeks. However, that was not the case, fortunately. I mean, obviously, we just tried a new SD card today, so clearly that was the first culprit to look for. And it appears that hopefully we can isolate it to just that SD card. And if this is It is a bit concerning because this could be a perpetual problem. I mean, it's one of them things where, yeah, maybe it'll just be a freak incident where it occurred the first time the SD card was used, but once it gets warmed up and fired up, then it'll just work fine. So what we're going to do, maybe I just said this, but we're going to try to go ahead and record another 32 minutes and see if it cuts out again. So after probably about 15 minutes or so, I'll take the first break, and then by the time we get to the alleged end of the show, then I should be able to check the recording to see if it is recording or not, and then to see if the SD card is properly functioning. So, yeah, excuse us, ladies. It's on-air production meeting here, but just trying to explain to you what exactly is going on here, and hey, if you feel like filming some videos yourself, any things to look out for. It's always good to have a backup. I mean, would it be nice to have a backup insanely expensive camera? Yes, it would. But I mean, we probably do have the budget for it. In all reality, it just seems maybe we should do it though. I mean, this could be a warning sign from the Almighty that we should have a backup insanely expensive camera, because the only other camera I got, it runs on those nickel metal hydride batteries, and it doesn't have a plug-in for it, so I mean, you can only record about 10 minutes of it. So, as far as recording long videos, this insanely expensive camera is the only available option currently. Now, yeah, you could just maybe go to Walmart or some other place to get one of those $50 webcams that look like crap and just are very poor quality, and that would work too, I suppose. But I mean, for you ladies and gentlemen at home, I feel that you deserve to have the quality that this camera provides. And when you watch Good Times Balls Deep, you know, the quality of that show will probably far exceed the quality of this show. So that's something to look forward to. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, so getting back on topic here, you know, we got derailed for a little bit, but no problem. Just call a forklift or a crane, get the train back on the tracks, and then start chugging forward here. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about selling cars. If you are selling your own personal car. So now, by the time it got cut off, I was selling some junky car. You know, I pulled it all back, took the sign off. A bunch of people called, wanted $500 for it. If you park a car out front on a busy road, you're gonna waste a lot of time. A lot of people are gonna come. They're gonna want to test drive it. You know, they're gonna come with all their family members. They're gonna all pile into the car and probably eat and drink and smoke and cause a big mess. So my recommendation in the 21st century, just stick it on Craigslist, or if it's a more expensive car, maybe try Auto Trader or those other places, or even eBay if you want to just get rid of the car, you know, as soon as possible. So there is that, but Craigslist usually works out pretty good. I mean, you'll get a bunch of goofy people that email you or try to lowball you, or they'll say, I don't have a car, can you drive and meet me, and then you take the bus back home, or something like that too. So yeah, I mean, vet the people, talk to them, email, exchange, you know, make sure they're on the up and up and that they're good, upstanding, morally sound people. Maybe you can have a few conversations with them, shoot a few texts back and forth, that get just more personal correspondence with them. I mean, yeah, would it be nice to just, somebody drops from the sky and gives you full price for your car and takes off and everything is all hunky-dory? Yeah, it would be. But in the real world, in the pragmatic world, you have to go through these necessary steps and allocate the necessary time to go through these processes. Now, so a while back, I mean, I was selling it's an older car, and these two gentlemen came, and they were kind of hee-hawing around, you know, they test drove it and everything too. They pointed out a few things that were wrong, but it wasn't so much that they're playing good cop, bad cop. It's just one of the guys, you know, he was the supposed expert, and then the other guy was kind of he was the one that was actually going to use the car. So, but apparently the guy that was the expert was the one with the money, so he was trying to lowball, you know, offer like $800 or something. The other guy's like, well, you know, we give you $1,000 for it, blah, blah, blah. And then there's some other parts to go with the car too, and they didn't really, one of the guys, you know, first he's like, we'll give you $1,000, we don't want the parts for it. So then the other guy's gonna give me $1,000, he's like, oh, we get the parts for it too. It's like, oh, no, you're not gonna play that funny business. So, I mean, at that point, you know, they wasted a bunch of my time. I think there was probably some pro wrestling that was on TV at the time those guys were at my house. So, you know, that's obviously a little agitating too. I mean, if you're gonna schedule to meet somebody, make sure it's convenient for you especially. And I mean, yeah, I guess for them, I mean, you know, if they agree to it, then it must be convenient. So there's no way to know for sure. You can only know if it's convenient for yourself or for other people around you, or, you know, people living with you, etc., etc. So it is good to have positive experiences and make good memories with people you're dealing with too. Because I mean, ultimately, the guy that ended up buying the car he's a pretty cool guy. You know, he met me in halfway, or, you know, meet you halfway. Or the world meets nobody halfway. But in this particular instance, he met me halfway, and, you know, he had his buddy with, so, you know, his buddy gave me a ride back home after he bought the car and all that good stuff. So he was a pretty cool guy. So yeah, I mean, if it sounds like I'm you know, stiffing you on these stories here, I already told them when the camera was off, so now it's just kind of going through them at Mach 8, and it's just, you know, I probably should slow down and add a little bit more detail to make them a little bit more exciting, but when I already told them once, then it's kind of just, then it's just boom, a flash that goes through your mind. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, so if you sell a car on eBay and you're going to get it shipped or something like that, then just make sure you consistently email with the other people too, because what happened to me is I don't even know why. It's kind of stupid, but on my part, I sold it. You know, no big shock there. But I sold a car on eBay, and for some reason I was gone for a few days or whatever. So, I specifically told the guy a couple times, it's like, okay, don't, yeah, I get that I just sold the car to you, but can you wait like a week before you get the shipper to come out, because I'm not home right now. I got some other obligations and I need to get some junk out of the car. Now, on his end, that probably sounds a little shady, and looking back on it now, I probably shouldn't have. I should have prioritized selling the car so that I would be home, for a week or so after the car is sold. That way it gets picked up and shipped out and everything too. But unfortunately, when you do plan to do something like that, then say for example, the shipper won't show up for that week, and then you'll want to leave the week after, and then the shipper will show up. But in this particular instance, the shipper showed up right away, but I was gone, so I still had some junk in the car, so I had to not really tell him to get lost, but it was kind of the buyer got really angry and upset that the shipper couldn't pick it up right away, and it's totally probably mostly my fault. So I mean, you can't really make any excuses there. I just made a poor decision. So when you sell a car online, just make sure that you're going to be there, available, especially if they're going to pick it up in person, because if somebody's going to come fly from 2,000 miles away and you're not home, that's going to be a bit of a problem, because they're not going to want to stay in a motel and wait around for you to get there. So maintain correspondence with people. Communication is the biggest issue. It's the biggest issue in life, at work, in relationships, your family, friends, everything. Communication is huge. That's why it's nice to have cell phones and computers, internet, instant messaging, all that stuff. So it's just good to always just maintain contact with people and communicate with them on a regular basis, because anytime something breaks down, it's usually just poor communication. For example, when I told the guy, I'm going to be gone for a week, he probably thought that was just completely absurd and silly and ridiculous, and didn't really read it too carefully to actually absorb the information. So yeah, there's that too. And cell phone numbers, so you can just call people instantly, and text messaging and all that good. Smoke signals, those work too. I mean, telegrams, fax, all that. Just go after communication problems with all guns blazing, and then you should be good. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're probably a bit early for a break, but again, I want to make sure that we're just running the two 50-minute segments here, so that we can test if this SD card is going to record to the third block again. That's basically number one priority. But before we do that, I'm going to have to plug for a show called Good Times Balls Deep. Hopefully the Good Times Balls Deep won't have the same technical issues, but I mean, obviously it'll be a high quality programming show, so it probably won't even matter. Just take what they get and improvise from there. And yeah, the host of the show, I'm not yet sure if I'm able to identify him on air yet, but hopefully soon in the near future I'll be able to. He's going to have a few guest hosts and everything too, and they're probably going to discuss a lot of current events, maybe past historical occurrences that are very significant even today. Like they say, if you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it. So you're definitely looking back at a lot of history, and not just America, but maybe the world, or maybe the galaxy, or the Big Bang Theory, or how the sun originated, how the moon and the stars and the earth align with the planets and the Jupiter and everything. So yeah, he'll be getting into a lot of deep diving into a lot of topics. As far as static or dynamic topics, I'm not entirely sure on that one here. As you can see, text messages up to this point has been mostly static topics, but eventually we will get to some dynamic topics. I mean, you think we'll have to. I mean, eventually static topics will dry up, but I mean, static topics do evolve slightly, but dynamic ones are. If you're going to run a show 7 days a week, then you absolutely need to have dynamic topics. News, politics, religion, current events, local events, activities, sports, all that. Probably won't do sports, though. That's there's plenty of people out there that can cover that. So, ladies and gentlemen, Good Times Balls D will be occurring in the very near future. Well, maybe not. It'll be happening in the future sometime. I'm really pumped and exhilarated for it. So that being said, you're listening to Text Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We'll be back in 3 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Text Messages, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Glad to have you here on this April 9th, 2018. Let me double check that date there. Yeah, April 9th, 2018. It's a Sunday. Normally we film Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, but we had a bit of a deviation this week because we're gearing up for the 13th episode, which will air this Friday at 9 p.m. on YouTube probably. I'm pretty excited. You know, I'm doing a little bit of preparation work for it. I'm going to read some stories from past purgatory and present incarnal forms of my existence, so should be exciting. You know, it's not going to be action-packed or high energy or anything like that. It's just going to be a show that deviates from what we've done in the past. Or, you know, the other 15 episodes or whatever the case may be. So we'll have 3 regularly programmed episodes this week, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be episode 16, 17, 18, and 19. 17, 18, 19 will be filmed this week. So there's that. As far as selling cars go, so ladies and gentlemen, if the camera cuts off after about 15 minutes here, it's because we had some issues with the SD card. What would happen is it records in 4 gigabyte segments, which are about 60 minutes. And when it transitions from the second and third one, it failed the last time around because we're using a new SD card for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. So if it fails again after 16 minutes and it just randomly cuts out, that's why. That's the reason here. So we're gonna go up to that point and then see if it continues to record after that. If not, hopefully it's just some weird one-off occurrence that, you know, the memory card has just got out of the box, or maybe there's some dust on those little copper receptacles, so it's gonna run fine after that. But it is a little bit concerning because, you know, we do lose valuable content, and then if I have to tell the story again, usually it doesn't hold the same emotional merit as it does the first time through. So, you know, it's almost feels a little phony and forced, but, you know, unfortunately that's just you know, obviously I could probably do a better job of getting more into the story the second time around, or the description, or whatever the case may be. So that being said, if it cuts out after a certain amount of time, that explains it. And, you know, the last episode cut out because after we only had 57 minutes and 30 seconds or whatever recording. But yeah, we should be able to do the full hour today. Should be at least an hour and 4 minutes or whatever. Now, yeah, and I know it's disrespectful to you, the ladies and gentlemen at home, to go over an hour because your time is valuable, etc., etc. So that being said, let's get back to selling cars. Now, yeah, if you sell a car, make sure it's a good, upstanding person, and make sure you have a clean title. You're the only name on it, so it's just a very smoothest transition. You know, you can do all the title work, sign the title over, get the cash for the car, etc. If people are going to come out of state to buy the car, just make sure they bring cash. You know, they might bring some goofy check or money order, and you better off just dealing with cash. You know, it's especially if somebody sends money from overseas. You know, then they probably going to be one of them deals where they send you more than what the car is worth. They want you to send them money, or they send the shipper money, etc., etc. That's always a scam. It's always going to be a scam. So if you're going to deal with people, make sure they just bring cash, and then you can have one of those little markers too to identify fraudulent cash too. You know, it is unfortunate because it seems like the most of what this show is just scammers and fraud that go on with selling cars. That's not, you know, that's such a small. With the advent of the internet, scammers are probably a lot more prevalent than they are nowadays. But it is important just to recognize, you know, if people are going to have cash, you know, maybe get one of those goofy markers that identifies if it's a forgery or not. But getting back to more just humanistic or quality aspect or mundane, let's see, just getting into the more mechanical or cleanliness aspects of selling a car. Now, if you're going to sell a car, just do basic cleaning. You know, do your little armor all, wipe down the interior and make sure it's nice and clean. You know, clean off the windows, vacuum the car. Because if you've used a car for a very long time, you know, it might have some smells in it. It's going to have dirt and dust and grime and road salts. And if you got an animal, definitely try to clean out all the fur And if you're a smoker, maybe you can do some kind of steam cleaning on the upholstery or the seats and the carpet and everything too. You know, you might be able to get new floor mats, just something to make it look decent. I mean, you don't need to spend a 40-hour work week just to make the car look acceptable. Just make sure that it's clean on the inside and on the outside too, and that everything is mechanically sound. I mean, if it's a half quart low on oil, just change the oil and fill it to the top. If there's some weird sway bar link that's broken and it makes rattles around while you're driving, just change that too. I mean, you don't need to put in a brand new engine when you sell a car. Just fix basic things that you or somebody you know can fix for a relatively affordable price. I mean, you don't want to dump $2,000 into a car and then only get $1,500 out of it. So there is that to consider too. I mean, how much are you getting out of it? How much you can potentially get out of it. I mean, if you have a $2,000 car, and if you put $500 in it and you can get $3,000 for it, then yeah, then it's a good investment. Unless you're spending 40 hours to do it, then at 40 hours to get $500, it's maybe not the best investment, but it's hard to know that stuff too. So, you know, just try to carefully evaluate your time and money that you can put into it and what you can get out of it too. 'Cause, I mean, some cars are just, the ceiling for what they're worth maybe only be $2,000, and you might think you need to put in $800, but in all reality, you're only going to increase the value by a few $100 by doing that. So yeah, definitely consider that in mind. And you know, it doesn't mean you're a bad person if you're not willing to make sure the car is, if you know there's something wrong with the car and you're not willing to fix it because you know it's going to cost you a lot more than what it's worth, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person. It just means you need to be forthcoming with the issues of the car. Like, for example, when I bought my car, the engine did not work. I was told the engine did not work. So the car was only about $800. Now, if the gentleman would have paid somebody to replace the engine, he would have probably paid $3,000, $4,000, and then he would have only got $3,000 for the car. So for him, it was just worth it to tell me straight out that the engine's blown up, so you're gonna have to put in a new engine. You know, I didn't have a problem with that. So just be honest with what's wrong with the vehicle. Honesty is always the best policy. I mean, if you want to sit around and lie and try to hide stuff or put paint over rust and tell people that it was never rusting and there's no rust on it, and I mean, yeah, you might get more money out of it, but you're gonna feel like a loser and, you know, a prick and all that. And then whether karma is real or not, it will definitely put you in a bit of debt as far as that goes too. And then, you know, when the person finds out that they were cheated, they're going to feel a little distraught over it too. And when they can put a face to somebody, then it even causes more distraught. I mean, if they see you on the street or something, they're obviously going to express some disdain towards your pernicious actions and awareness of what was wrong. So yeah, just be honest when you sell a car. Tell them everything that you believe is wrong with the car. Now, yeah, obviously, somebody is, if you drive a car for long enough, it's going to have these little quirks that you just get used to. And if somebody else drives a car, they're going to be like, well, why does the radio not, why is the speaker blown out, or why does this speaker not work? Or they're going to notice things that you just sort of glazed over and just completely forgot about because you got used to the car. So just bear that in mind. Don't harshly castigate people because they're pointing out flaws of the car. Usually the more flaws people point out in the car, the more interested they are of buying it. And then they'll probably try to talk you down to it. And if they have a reasonable argument, then yeah, go ahead. I mean, if they just nominally say, oh, you want $2,000, I'll give you $1,500, then, they're just going to be weirdos about it. It's just, and not make a positive experience and be a good person, then yeah, I mean, if you want to play hardball with them, you can too. And it gets to a point too where you don't want to waste so much time with people that you got to deal with 5 goofballs before you get one cool person to buy the car. Probably every car I've sold to somebody, the person has been a pretty cool guy, or gal. So I mean, I've had mostly positive experiences with selling cars. Now you can also trade in your car too. I should have probably mentioned this up front, ladies and gentlemen, but Now, if you trade in a car, say the car's worth $2,000, if you're going to trade it in, they might give you $400 for it. And you might think, well, that $1,600 is a lot of money. But if you consider the fact that to get $2,000 out of it, you might have to put in another $500 or $1,000. Then you might have to spend about 2, 3, 4 months before you can finally sell. And then at that point, the value of the car may have dropped, and somebody may have only offered you $1,700, so you had to accept that. So, you had to wait 4 months to sell the car. It took up space in your driveway, and you only got, after you put money in it, you only got a few $100 more out of it. So